Different views.
I do want a revolution. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the system is so corrupted. It's so bad. There's no way you can reform. There's no way you can shave around the edges. We do have to tear it down. When you've got a system, this is what I wrote in an email yesterday. I can't remember who I was writing to, but I said, when you build a system based on money rather than morality, you've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
Minutes, 15 seconds.
Vehicle's flight pressures.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Hello and welcome, independent researchers, skeptics, and all of humankind, to Shadow Citizen. Shadow Citizen will explore the shadows of an alternate reality. Your hosts, Rachael L. McIntosh.
All right. Yes, we made it through another week, everyone. We have Cynthia McKinney, former Representative Cynthia McKinney. She was 6 terms, and she has since she got a doctorate. She's a doctor now.
yes.
Yes, and she's written several books. She's written the book, I'm going to list them off. She wrote The Illegal War on Libya, Ain't
Yes.
Nothing Like Freedom,
Yes.
How the U.S. Creates Shithole Countries.
Oh, you actually said it.
Yeah, well, we're on the internet. It's okay. And when China sneezes from the coronavirus lockdown. Right. Okay. So Cynthia McKinney, thank you so much for being here. I just want to say, and I said it before we got on air, I said, this woman is a wonder of nature. She looks exactly the same. She hasn't aged.
I should have just said thank you and smiled. But the truth of the matter is I'm 65 years old.
Okay.
And I try to remain active. You know, the human body was made to move. And so I like to move. And except it's hard when it's snowing outside. I am from Georgia and I love the South, right? And I proclaim my southernness. But I'm up in your neck of the woods now, and there's snow. It snowed all night last night, and it's snowing a little bit now. And so I'm going to go outside and play after this.
Yeah, good. I took some snow samples, and I'm sending them into the lab for analysis to tell you the truth. So don't eat the snow. That's what
okay. So we can't eat the white snow and we can't eat the yellow snow.
Yeah,
we just can't eat the snow.
Yeah, avoid ingesting snow.
That's right. And I absolutely understand why, because we don't know what is in that snow. You know?
We don't anymore. Yeah.
That's right. Well, I see it, because I travel a lot and I fly a lot. So I see real clouds and then I see this fake thing that's like a mist over the air. And I mean, sort of over where we are. And it doesn't even look real, but people think that those are real clouds and they get tricked all of the time. They look at the cloud.
Yeah.
But they're different clouds and they're not contrails. So I have a t-shirt that I think it was Michael Caine gave me, and it said, what on earth are they spraying, or what in the world are they spraying? Yeah, good question. And we all need to know. We deserve to know. It's our tax dollars.
Thank you for saying that. Good. Right on. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. But I want to hear from you with these new books. Oh, wait. Before we even talk about the books, last time I saw you, you were cruising around in an RV.
Oh,
What happened from that?
well, that was with Robert David Steele.
Yes.
And basically, that was at a time when the wildfires were going on.
Yeah.
And they had basically consumed the entire West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
We were headed to Oregon. And then from Oregon, we were going to Washington State. But we couldn't move. And so we went as far as we went outside of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And we were headed to Oregon, and they shut down the interstates and everything. And so we had to abbreviate and regroup. So we just turned around and came back. And then after that, it was good, but I think the message of UNRIG is still very important, because our country has been rigged for 400 years. I mean, it was rigged from the founding. And so this idea of UNRIG, it's a great idea. And it was Robert's idea when the former president said that the system is rigged. I think it struck a chord with everybody, because everyone realized that, well, it is rigged. And in whatever way they were interacting with the system, maybe it was the IRS for some, maybe it was Small Business Administration for others, maybe it was, DOJ for others. But in whatever way or whatever aspect we were interacting with the system, we all got the same result, which is, man, this really is bad. This is not what we thought we had. And then there was a guy by the name of Bill, I can't remember his last name. So he was looking at the judicial branch. Yeah. And basically what he wanted to show is that there's no such thing as justice in the United States. If you don't have money to pay, you don't get justice. And so he went around the country, and he was from Georgia too. So people, your audience can look him up. His first name is Bill. And he went around the country. He collected stories from people of their interactions with the judiciary, and whether it was a bought out lawyer or a inconsistent judge or whatever it was, that everybody had stories. In fact, I got stories, everyone has stories of them trying to seek justice and the system falling short. And they hit him with a sexual harassment case, charge, and sort of got rid of the whole problem. Uh-huh. And that's kind of what happens when people tell the truth. I mean, look at Julian Assange. All he did was give a platform for people who are in these positions, who see what's going on. They know it's wrong. They want to tell folks. And yet Julian Assange, I don't want to say, but it's a death sentence in another way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it breaks my heart what's going on there. And what was kind of interesting to me is that Trump, when he left office, he had the opportunity and he didn't take it.
He didn't take it.
That's
right. So, there's a lot to ponder and contemplate around that, because if anyone understood the plight of Julian Assange, it was Donald Trump. And well, I mean, he talked about WikiLeaks and, during the campaign. Mm-hmm. So he understood what WikiLeaks was.
Yeah.
And and WikiLeaks, the revelations that came, from the Democratic Party emails was certainly revelatory. And so those of us who suspected, well, I knew that the Democratic Party was corrupt, but a lot of people didn't know, and those emails certainly gave a lot of food for thought for people who were partisan to the Democratic Party. And so, you can't say that Donald Trump didn't know about Julian Assange, didn't know about the case of WikiLeaks, but in the decision-making process, someone was next to him who said, no, don't do it. And that's what he abided by that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But what do we do? Like, what do we do when we're in this situation now? I mean, you don't have to do it right this minute. You can think and you can talk about the other stuff and we can round up with that. But honestly, what do we do?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is it's kind of like a drug addict. You cannot intervene in the life of a drug addict if the addict is not ready for the intervention. And so I was looking at a video of Kim, who's a rhythm and blues singer, and he makes really good music. And so I was looking at that last night, and he just got married. And usually I don't do the Hollywood movie star type thing. I don't do that thing. But he has a very compelling story because he was homeless. Now, I didn't know about the rest of it. I didn't know that the reason he was homeless was because he was addicted to drugs. And so he goes and he talks about how he was brought down. He was brought to his knees. He had nothing else. And so then he was ready for the intervention that family and friends had been urging him to do for a long time. Now, as a result of the crack cocaine epidemic, I have a member of my own family. I mean, no Black family was untouched. I have a member of my own family who's not ready for the intervention, but has been on the streets for 25, 30 years. And his mother, her biggest fear is that she's going to turn on the TV news and see her son dead on television. That's her fear. That's what she lives with.
Right.
So we the people of the United States have been injected with a drug. Many different types of it's a toxic cocktail. And so maybe this is the moment when the Republic is at complete risk, that people will say, okay, we're ready now. We understand we've got to do things differently. We've got to think differently. We've got to act differently. Maybe now is that time.
Yeah, that's why I sparked up Shadow Citizen again, because I'm really hoping to hear voices from all different places that are creative and ready to think outside the box on how to creatively solve the situation that we're in. I don't necessarily want a revolution per se, but I want to get people together and not be accusing each other just because they have different views.
I do want a revolution. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because the system is so corrupted. It's so bad. There's no way you can reform. There's no way you can shave around the edges. We do have to tear it down. When you've got a system, this is what I wrote in an email yesterday. I can't remember who I was writing to, but I said, when you build a system based on money rather than morality, you've got a problem. Mm-hmm. And that's at whatever point the system or the various systems within our country became focused on whoever has the money can get the justice. Whoever has the money can have a voice, can experience the First Amendment. Whoever has the money. So
it was education.
Education. That's right. Well, $138,000 worth of student loans
Right.
for my PhD.
Right.
Now, I think I'm a much better person. I think I am a better citizen. I think I have more to contribute. But certainly the United States can do better for educating its population than, say, a country like Bangladesh that is so poor, but they subsidize education because they value an educated population.
Right. Right. Because it makes the difference.
It makes a difference. That's right. That's right. So, and you can go, whether it's healthcare, you go and you look at every aspect of our lives has become a profit center for somebody else.
Yep.
And so now I know that they're libertarians and they would say, well, we don't, we're wary of government. I'm wary too. But if you're going to have, you might even say I'm an anarchist, because I believe that we can govern ourselves. We don't need a state to tell us what to do and how, what not to do and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I believe that we have the capacity, if we were educated in that direction, to govern ourselves first through direct democracy. But in as much as I don't think there's anything that can be salvaged. And here's the thing. So now we've got SARS coronavirus 2.
Yes.
We've got SARS coronavirus 2. And you've got World Economic Forum telling us, oh, it's a great time for the Great Reset.
Mm-hmm.
And we can build back better, in which you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Yep.
Now, somebody else is anarchist and revolutionary too, as I'm anarchist and revolutionary in the way I think,
Yep.
except that I think the way I want the end result is that I want it for we the people, whereas the World Economic Forum folk want it for themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't think it's an accident that we're seeing incredible wealth and inequality in the United States. The United States was known for people to be able to lift themselves up and live the American dream at whatever level they were, but there was a dream there for everybody. And now all of a sudden, we're supposed to be happy with the Great Reset, the dark winter. Joe Biden has told us 4 times now that we're going to experience a dark winter. Does he mean the same thing when he says dark winter that World Economic Forum means? I suspect so.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
considering that his Build Back Better slogan was used by politicians all over the country. I mean, all over the world.
All over the world. That's right.
The world. So it's a global thing that's pushing him into this position.
That's right.
Quite frankly, I know they said he got the most votes of anybody ever in any election. I put it this way. People know that I'm not very politically, I'm not pro-Trump, I'm not pro-Biden, but this whole past election, I don't believe either one of them legitimately won the election. I think it was propped up by money from out of the country and this agenda that you're talking about.
Well, Georgia, my home state, was the first state to roll out the electronic voting machines.
Yes.
So I can tell you unequivocally that there was no fairness, there was no integrity in this election. I can say it because I've experienced it. I know what they do. I had the electronic voting machines stop in the middle of the night. I'm ahead, all of a sudden I'm behind, and I have to accept the outcome. When a group of citizens did file a lawsuit against the use of these electronic voting machines in my particular election, because that we experienced huge anomalies, like people in South Georgia casting a vote in my in my election, and I don't represent South Georgia, or didn't at the time. The state of Georgia said, well, at that time, the electronic voting machines were owned by Dominion, Diebold, but Diebold just was purchased by Dominion. So it's the same people, the same thing, the same process, the same steel. And so the state of Georgia said, one, we're not going to release the election data. So now can you imagine that you're a US citizen, you're a taxpayer, you pay for the your county is supposed to be administering the elections as supervised by the Secretary of State in each state. And that doesn't happen because basically the elections have been privatized. So we've privatized elections. They use proprietary software. So when you say, I want the election data, they say, no, it belongs to Diebold. You can't have it. Okay, this is exactly what the Trump campaign had a problem with. They couldn't get the Dominion data. And why? Because it's proprietary and it's created to steal, and therefore they've got a secret and they've got to hide the secret. Okay. So then what the state of Georgia testified in court was, quote unquote, you just have to trust us that the result that we announce is the actual result. Now, this is what Bev Harris called blind faith voting. Well, now you might want to have blind faith when you walk into a church, but I don't want to have blind faith in fallible human beings that are my employees. But that's the situation that we have. So again, everything you look at, everything you touch, and that is an arm of the state, of the government, is corrupted. And so now, how do we get out of it? We get out of it first by understanding that we have a problem. Houston, we got a problem.
Yeah.
And if we can just recognize that we've got a problem, at least, like the drug addict, at least there's a possibility of an intervention. But if you don't recognize that you have a problem, you think everything is just hunky-dory, everything is just fine, you'll be like Hank Aaron. You'll say, oh, I'm so proud to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And then the next thing you know, you're dead.
Yeah. Speaking of, that's a good segue into your book. Why don't you tell us how you came? Obviously, you saw the COVID-19 thing going on and you thought something was up. And you said, I got to do something. And
yes.
So what was it that sparked, that said, I've got to do so? What was the spark?
Okay. So in 2019, I am not in the country because, of course, once you get on the blacklist, you can't get employment inside the United States. So I had to go outside the US in order to get a job. So I'm outside and I'm looking in, and I said, these guys are going to take us to war. And I don't want any war. I'm the ultimate supposedly anti-war person, pro-peace. And so I said, I need to organize a trip to China so we can understand just exactly what's going on. We need to know. So like when I went to Libya beforehand, and then I went to Libya again under the bombing because I knew that we were being lied to. I just didn't know the extent to which the lies were. And so I went there and I saw for myself. That's what I do. So I've been to Cuba, been to Syria, have networks on the ground that I've cultivated so that I could get into these countries and see what was going on and take people with me. So it's not just my eyes, but some independent journalists would go. So anyway, that time the issue was China's treatment of the Uyghur population, which is the Muslim non-Han population.
Okay.
And so I said, okay, we're gonna go. We didn't just go to Xinjiang, which is where the Muslim population, most of them live, but not all.
Okay.
So we were able to find pockets of Muslim community in Beijing, and we went to Dunhuang, and we went other places. And so we were able to see, we ended up in Xinjiang though.
Okay.
And along the way, we stopped and we talked to, sort of the average man on the street kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel to be a Muslim in China? With that, just trying to find out.
Yeah.
And while we were so I ended up taking 18 Americans, US passports, and 2 UK passports. So we had a delegation, a total of 20 people, plus our tour guide. So we had 21 people. And we went there for one reason. Well, we started in Beijing, and we went Xi'an, Dunhuang, and then we ended up in Xinjiang. So that's like going from New York to Oregon again. Okay. So it's like China's a big country.
Massive, yeah.
So you get a pretty good feel for what's going on. Like we stayed in Muslim-owned hotel, or so we were immersing ourselves so we could learn. At no point did we know what was going on in Wuhan. Now we're looking at the news, but we were looking at English language news. Now maybe in the Chinese language news, maybe something was being said, but we had a Chinese tour guide and he never said anything to us. So we didn't know that this, was going on in Wuhan. We actually just flew over Wuhan. And so we're there, we get back January 10th, and then China locks down January 20th. And I said, oh my gosh, so all of us, the 20 of us, had already decided what chapters we were going to write in the book, telling about our experiences. Mm-hmm. And that just had to be, events overtook our topic. And so then I contacted the publisher and I said, hey, can I do a book on coronavirus? And publisher, first she said, no, what would be your angle? So she said, well, come up with a sample table of content. So I worked up something, and then publisher said, okay, I can kind of go with this. And then she refined it a bit more. And then I had to find contributors. And I was able to find contributors who could read the scientific literature, okay, which is very technical, but who didn't write in that manner, because academic writing is dull, it's dry, it's boring, and you don't want that. This is all of my books are written for public consumption,
for normal people.
For normal people, that's right. So I found people in Italy, because by this time the lockdown started in China, but the lockdown spread all over the world. And so then I said, okay, well, that's fine. I can get somebody from Italy. I can get somebody, so I got varied experiences about the lockdown. And then the story became, well, this is way more than just lockdowns. There's something else going on. And so so the book was sort of the snowball effect. I don't know if you know about methodology, but when you're interviewing and you're trying to get the sample of, who you're gonna interview, the snowball effect as well, one thing leads to the other. And that's how it happened, because literally as things were unfolding, I said, oh, well, we got to have this. Or, oh, we got to have that. And then I think it was Harry. There were two videos. One was by a young man by the name of Harry Vox, and he had predicted all of this based on Rockefeller documents.
Yes, yes.
And then there was another guy who attended a meeting back in 2010 or 14 or something like that. Bill was his name too. And he talked about it. And so I said, okay, well, now we got to get our hands on these documents, and we got to da. And so basically the book grew. The chapters were created by the events as they were occurring. And so we have a very up-to-date book. The doctor contacted me. He bought the book, and he called me and he said, "You've got everything in this book, everything." And I said, and he said he wanted to know, how did I know? And I said, well, I've been doing this politics thing for a long time, all my life. So some things you get a feel for. It's sort of like the football player, the quarterback who drops back, and then he drops back again because he's running a screenplay. And so that it's a screenplay only after it unfolds. And so that's what kind of was happening here, is that, I could see that this wasn't the whole story. This wasn't even half of the story that we were being told, and that we needed to do way more research. And that's what we did. And it ended up that, so we did the initial chapter is, what is a coronavirus? Very real simple.
Yeah.
But we eventually got into biological warfare. Because, the United States has, unfortunately, in my chapter, I did the chapter on genocide. And unfortunately, the United States has practiced biological warfare on too many other countries,
yeah,
and on people inside the US.
Yeah.
And that's like the real shocker. But it's not a shocker if you know about this government. And, like I say, it's corrupt. It's totally rigged. We have people who have no values, no morals, no principles, and they are able to rise to the top. Now that's called a kakistocracy. We have that. We have a kakistocracy. We have everything but a republic. And so now, as I have looked at these various different political systems, that's why I'm not afraid of the word anarchy, because I know that I could operate very well in a voluntary society, of which, like, we have a few of them around the world, and we have a few even inside the United States. They're called intentional communities. And that's what my son wants to build. He wants to build an intentional community where human relations are not mediated by dollars or technology. We're human beings, we're people, we love, and we share, we enjoy. And it's that human spirit and our ability to connect with each other that makes us so special. Otherwise, we might as well be lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, but we're not. So anyway, the values of these intentional communities are the values that really could govern the larger society.
I have a question though. If you have an intentional community, which sounds wonderful, can it grow to be the size of the United States, or do they have to be small? I'd imagine they'd be smaller. And that's why we have states, I think, too, because the governance, or there is no governance in the intentional community, but is it able to be as vast as the United States or the world?
Now, okay, so this is a great question, because now at least we're exploring what are our possibilities here. Because in international relations theory, which is sort of like my undergrad degree is international relations, my graduate degree, international relations, my PhD was less international relations, as leadership, but I did it international because I focused on Hugo Chavez and his leadership in Venezuela. So there are some people, you know, those future people that believe that they say first of all, to say nation state, that's a misnomer, because you're only a nation after you've done the mental work of believing yourself to be a nation. And we're not a nation yet. It was one of the things that Trump used to say all the time that used to just bug me. We are a country, we're a state, we're not a nation yet. But anyway, so you've got this language, nation state. And so what is the next way that governance will take place? Sort of, you know, the future trend. There are some people who believe that it's corporate governance, and so that we will all be flying the flag of Shell and Exxon and Texaco, and that will be our primary sort of identity, not just work identity, but, you know, instead of I am a U.S. citizen, I am a Texaco employee kind of thing, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
So corporatism, is that our future? Well, it doesn't have to be, because I believe that our future is written by us. And just because it's written in a textbook that the world is tending toward corporatism or corporate governance doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. I don't want that. I want my individual sovereignty respected. And so the idea was, you say, okay, well, we're not a democracy, we are a republic. Well, the fact of the matter is that a republic is a form of democratic governance. And so now, what is required when you have a republic? Well, you take your individual sovereignty and the power that goes along with that, and then you give that to somebody else. Now, I want my street paved, right? And instead of me and my neighbors getting together and we say, okay, well, we need our street paved because we're tired of walking in the mud. Now we go to government that has extracted resources from us for its own existence. And then we ask someone who is not only loyal to that neighborhood, but also supposedly anyway, loyal to many other different neighborhoods. And we say, okay, we need our street paved. And then that person says, well, come back in 5 years. We're out of money. And so then you trudge through the mud for another 5 years when the solution lies right here with you. That's right. So this idea of me voluntarily giving my sovereignty and my power that goes along with that to someone else that then I got to rely on and hope that he's got time to see me, well, that doesn't exactly make sense. It didn't make sense for us to have one person who was like a king, right? And then that king and queen, and then it didn't make sense for when the king and queen had children and all of the kids were girls, that there was a succession problem. That didn't make sense, right? So we evolve in our governance structure as we evolve in our knowledge base. You know, that's what it's all about. That's called progress. And so we're not stuck where we are just because we are where we are now. We can actually think about governing structures that are closer to us, that tie us together, respect our dignity, and that deliver the goods. We are now in a system that doesn't deliver. It delivers to some because, you know, we've seen the wealth inequality. So we know that some people got tremendously wealthier as a result of the lockdowns. Right. Those people, they got more wealthy. I think Bezos made some like $1 billion in like a week or something. I mean, you know, just something like totally outrageous. Yeah. And then Elon Musk just shoots
right up. Yeah.
That's right. So So now it's winning. The system as it's currently constructed is winning for some people, but it's not winning. It's not winning. We're losers.
Yeah.
So now how can we change that?
Yeah, I'm smiling because you brought up this thing about the roads. And from Rhode Island, this is all we do in Rhode Island is rebuild our roads. Every bit of money that comes into Rhode Island from the federal government goes right out the roads because we always have potholes all the time. So I'm laughing about that. Also, my mother went down to to Cuba. She went to Cuba right after when they opened it up. Remember when they opened it up? It was like, whoa, we're going to Cuba. My mother went to Cuba. There was some big hurricane that hit Florida, like at the same time. And I was like, Mom, I don't know if you should go because Cuba might got hit by the hurricane too. She went. She was astounded. It was like only 3 weeks after a hurricane. The place looked perfect because the whole community, the whole place, they just got to work and fixing the place up because they knew tourism is their industry now. So let's make everything nice. United States, everybody's sitting around waiting for the insurance companies. Places totally trashed. And it was like a full year went by for those people in Florida.
Right. That's right. And some people were never made whole, is my understanding.
Yeah.
And I just met recently someone who informed me that the people in Sandy was it Sandy Hook that had like a hurricane or something come through, and everything was destroyed, and a lot of them still haven't been. They're waiting for the insurance companies. Well, to wait for the insurance companies is to wait for a lifetime for some of them because they'll never pay.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. If anybody has had to deal with insurance companies, you are paying into this insurance, and all of a sudden they come out, they give you a portion of what you thought, or nothing at all of what you thought you were buying into. And it seems the medical industry is all tied in with this insurance industry, and then the government gets involved because right now it seems like all we make in America is sick people.
That's right.
That's the industry.
That's the industry because our maintenance of what we used to think of as well-being has become a profit center. And so if you're healthy, then those people, the fast food people, invest in big pharma. So you eat the fast food, you get sick, big pharma, so they're making money on both sides. And so this whole idea of, I only want a state, if I have to have a state, I only want a state for one reason. One, that is education. We are in a global community. We need to have some standards. They are sort of national standards so that our children are able to not compete with, but even collaborate with children from other parts of the world whose education system is so much better. I went to Haiti, and I went on top of a hill, and in a community, I don't know the name of the community, that community had produced a physics PhD. I went to the school. The school is clapboard, meaning that it's one board here, big space in between, another board here, wooden benches for the kids to sit on, no chalkboard, and that school produced a PhD. You go to PhD in physics. You go to schools in the US, you see these huge structures. I mean, they're magnificent structures, and no learning is going on inside. I mean, everything that could go wrong, that could possibly go wrong, has gone wrong. Yeah. Despite the innocent investment of US taxpayers. US taxpayers are innocent, except to the extent that they have failed to hold the system and the individuals that occupy positions of authority inside the system accountable for results. That's one thing we don't. Oh, we'll spend $700 billion on defense, and yet on one day, something, I won't say what it is, can even hit the Pentagon.
Yep, you're exactly right. Now, I used to work for a defense contractor.
Okay.
And that was my job. And my books are called Security Through Absurdity. And the first book talks about 9/11 inside that defense contracting place and what that was like. And everybody knew that as soon as that whole thing with Building 7 happened, we knew that it wasn't real because we had seen the blueprints for Building 7. And that place was designed to fall the way it fell. And so when they were saying, oh no, we didn't believe it. So that sort of was my waking up to that. But the whole thing, why I brought up this defense contracting thing, the whole sales and marketing, for instance, you talked about school. You go in, you see a problem, and you say, oh, we'll fix that. Every kid needs a computer.
Yeah.
So now you start we need those computers updated and maintenance and everything else. Turns into this giant contract. And then you have your offices in every state. So now you can get the federal government
That's right. So it's rigged.
Yeah.
Even national security is rigged. Mm-hmm. So when you occupy a space where everything is rigged, I'm sorry, tinkering around the edges isn't going to produce the result. You've got the U.S. life expectancy going down.
Yes.
Maternal mortality increasing. Mm-hmm. So this is not supposed to happen, but it's happening. So that means something is wrong. And it's got to be with our governance structure. It's not because there's a lack of money, but it certainly has to be a part of the answer is how the money is being spent. Right.
So back to my original question, do you think we'd be able to do this? See, my thought when we start talking like this, I'm thinking 10th Amendment, like just get more into your state and get your state under control, if that's even possible. Or do we go even smaller, like micro local? That's what I'm trying to figure how this would, I'm still stuck in this system, but I see what you're talking about. We got to move on. We got to do something to fix because this is broken. You don't just keep doing the same thing over and over if it's broken.
That's right. So I think, they say all politics is local. So I think on one hand, like my son said, I want to do this intentional community. And he was in law school, and of course he chose not to be a lawyer after I spent the money to send him to law school. So, that's what children do.
That's what, it makes a mother proud. Yep. Yeah.
So, at least he graduated. That's what I can say. Well, at least he graduated. But what he would do when he was there is he would have these no money days where the students would bring their things in that they wanted to give away or that they could afford to give away. And they would do exchanges. And so everybody would leave with something that they didn't have before, and everybody was happy, and we could be happy. And it wasn't a dollar bill that sort of was in between that relationship.
The intermediary,
That's right. So if we can, he does time banking. So what I say is that my son graduated from law school so he could become the trash man for the wealthy. So what he decided that he really got turned on by was agriculture, growing things. And so then he went and got a certificate at local agricultural school, and he's doing urban agriculture now. And I guess it was 2019 because 2020 was just dump that in the sea. But in 2019, he got a grant to set up an outdoor classroom and with beekeeping. So he's making honey, and he has at the subway stations, he gives away food, and they do this sort of thing, and they do time banking at the community garden.
Okay.
So
define time banking. Define time banking.
Well, basically, there's a lot of work that needs to be done from season to season,
right.
And there's no pay involved. However, if you put in, say, 25 hours, then they figured out a way to exchange that 25 hours for 25 hours worth of food that's grown in the community garden. And that's awesome. What we do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And so in like in Northern California, you have people who have decided that they want a different currency. So they have a local currency, and that currency buys local goods, locally produced goods. And so people are thinking about how they can sort of divest from this system that over here that doesn't work, and then construct something parallel that actually services the needs of the people. And that's what we need, because I don't know everything, you don't know everything, but I guarantee you, if you put 10 people in a room, we'll figure out a lot.
Yeah. Now, here's another thought. When you said currency, how do you personally feel about all this cryptocurrency stuff?
Well, I was pretty excited about the prospect of cryptocurrency until I learned that the NSA had played a role in the idea, not just the idea, but in the sort of practical implementation of cryptocurrency. So that I say, okay, well, the bad guys are already there. And so that's not so good. But, I'm associating with these young people, and they swear that decentralization is the way to go. I agree with that. They swear that decentralized cryptocurrency is good. Now, here's one thing, though, that we lose with cryptocurrencies, except for Dash and Monero. And I haven't checked them lately to see how they're actually doing. But when you put something on the blockchain, so the blockchain is nothing more than a ledger. It's a way to account for things. So if you put everything on the blockchain, then you're also putting your transactions on the blockchain, which means that there's no such thing as privacy anymore. And so now, if it's, say, Bitcoin, BTC, then you could, if you're intrepid enough, you can go back and you can track every transaction that's on the Bitcoin, So how do we maintain privacy? And Dash and Monero have figured that out by, sort of washing all of the transactions together. And so then you can't pull one out and say, okay, this went directly to that. So, and then there's another problem. I like the idea of privacy.
Yes.
So I want to keep that.
Yeah. Sure.
And then there's another problem, and that problem is whales. So what you have in the cryptocurrency world is the young people are saying, well, it's really decentralized, but in reality, it's not. So you've got some people, a whale is someone who has so much of that currency that they can control the market.
Right.
And I don't know if it's what it takes to control the market. It may be 40 some odd percent, but so 51%, if 51% of the Bitcoin market is controlled by 2, 3, 5 people, what's the difference than what we have now? So that's a problem. Yeah. Another problem also is the gold-backed currency. So with gold-backed currency, I see that as a problem because unless you have control over your gold, if you're a particular state and you have control over your gold, but heck, the South Africans don't even have control over South African gold because it's the same small group of families that control the gold. Mm-hmm. So just giving them more power is not the answer. The answer is taking power away from them and building these alternative structures, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, thank you so much for expounding on that. Thank you very, very much. That's beautiful. Now, oh my gosh, we've already talked for over an hour.
I know. I have another.
Yeah. Okay. So talk about the last things you want to talk about, so we can hear what you have to say. Wrap it up for us. What you want to say.
Well, we were supposed to talk about this and we didn't talk about this. We did talk a little bit about this, but what I would say is for people who want to know a little bit more about how I think and why I think and why I think it's important to find other people who think like I think, there's no such thing as political spectrum, right? Because now we've come full circle. And the left is the right is the left, so we shouldn't get locked down in other people's labels.
Right, correct.
So there's lots of ideas that are floated in these books, and I would ask people to buy them and stay in touch with me. I'm active for as long as I can be on social media. Find me and engage in the conversation. Like I say, politics is about this conversation around the dinner table, and the conversation has been going on for however many years it's been going on, 400, 500 in our case, thousands of years in the cases of other countries, and we're only involved in this little small part of that conversation. So we got to have a historical perspective. We need to have older people at the table. We need to have young people at the table. We need to have people who have been left out. We need, so we need to hear from all of these different voices so that we can have an inclusive response, or what can I say, an inclusive result that everyone can buy into. And I believe it's possible for us to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Cynthia McKinney. Thank you so much for appearing on Shadow Citizen. And I will provide links to all these, your websites and your books, and I will definitely be visiting them myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Shadow Citizen with Rachael and Dr.